This TikTok creator is receiving a lot of backlash right now.
My 93-year-old dad is iconic, but I want to introduce you to the real legend of the family, Elena.
For telling the tone-deaf story of her Filipino nanny, who only returned home to the Philippines after 3 decades of working for her family.
She lived with my family for about 30 years.
But before you pass any judgments, please listen to the whole story. Lexia has basically been under the care of her nanny Elena since she was a baby.
She got me ready for my first day of preschool, moved me into my college dorm and everything in between, so taking her back to the Philippines was something I could not have wanted to do more.
In the video, she says it was her nanny's decision to go home after 30 years.
And about 6 months ago, she decided it was time for her to move back to the Philippines.
You're going to the Philippines?
And she wanted to be the one to take her home.
Yes, I'm going to the Philippines. I have to take her home.
She did sound like she was aware of the struggles her nanny had to go through.
It had been over 30 years since Nanny had last been to the Philippines. She sacrificed raising her son and daughter to get a job in America and send every dollar she could back home to her family.
She even said herself she's been through hell.
She is the hardest worker, and it's not an exaggeration to say that she's been through hell, yet somehow she's the smiliest, happiest person I have ever met.
And that taking her back to the Philippines was both a happy and sad moment for her.
Before I knew it, it was time to head to LAX, and when I tell you I have never experienced a heartbreak like this before, God, I love this woman so much. We had a tearful goodbye to America. She thanked it for everything it had brought to her. I cursed it for not letting her stay forever.
Until finally,
we held hands the majority of the flight, and before I knew it, we were in the Philippines. All sorts of things were going through my head at this point. Will Nanny's family take good care of her? Will they resent me? How will she fit in? Will she be homesick for America? I was so anxious, I cannot even tell you.
Many people are outraged by this video. But to be fair to her, she did seem genuine. The way she told the story, her nanny really did seem happy. But even with all the niceness, people think she was being tone deaf. That she was making a cute story out of the tragic fact that her nanny wasn't able to go home, not even once, for 30 years. After the wave of criticism, she posted an apology video.
I am deeply sorry for the ripple effect of hurt that my videos have caused. My relationship with her is ultimately something that I could not hold closer to my heart, and I apologize if me trying to share that came across insensitive, ingenuine, or negative and hurtful in any way, shape, or form.
Saying that Elena wanted to keep things between them and to not share more details.
She reminded me that she and I know the truth of our relationship, that is what matters most, and that hateful people are not interested in understanding. Prior to her work with my family, she worked with many other families within the US. I cannot speak to her sacrifices and decisions, but I will say that every year she continued to choose to work with my family. It was one of our biggest blessings.
And again, how important her nanny is to her life.
Elena is the most incredible human with the most incredible soul, and I could not be more proud to consider her one of the 3 pillars that raised me.
Now, we don't really know much about her or her nanny, but this opens the door for us to have a discussion about something much more important. The topic of foreign workers.
So you're telling me within 30 years, no one helped her get a work visa so she could get a green card?
We all know the typical story of an immigrant moving to America and becoming a maid or a servant or a caregiver to the elderly because there just are no other options.
Something that I think is extremely alarming about this is how many Americans do not recognize what modern day slavery looks like.
And in her apology video, Lexi also addressed it a bit.
I want to make it clear that I agree with how broken the immigration process is. Separately, I'd like to make it clear that Elena received a competitive wage for her work. I understand that my tone was inappropriate considering the gravity of her story. It is very painful to unpack why someone would end up as an undocumented citizen in America.
Let's be honest, Night Fam, we just cannot put the blame on this girl. Traveling the world and being an immigrant myself, I met thousands of foreign workers. And it is very similar to Nanny Elena, unfortunately, around the world. There are no laws protecting them. They are not getting paid enough to even be able to go back home. Many of them choose not to go home so they could just send the money to their families. Maybe that's what Elena did, because unfortunately that's a typical overseas Filipino worker story. It's sad, but the truth is, Elena is only one of 29 million foreign workers in America right now. And I feel like too often do we romanticize this idea of an American dream, while for most people, not just immigrants but also the Americans, the American dream is just simply living a normal, humble life. I hope you shared this video to spread awareness about an issue that many people don't realize exists. We need laws that protect domestic servants like her and every kind of immigrant worker. To strengthen and enforce these laws, establish fair wages and working conditions. We need a system where every worker is valued, protected and empowered. And even more, a system where a person who works in a country for more than 30 years is doing well enough to be able to just book a plane ticket and go back home and then come back to the States.